Assault rifles are super popular in COD, the COD community. It's obviously a very passionate bunch of people, but how many ARs did you actually use throughout the years? Look in the mirror and be honest. There's been a lot of rifles that were perfectly viable, but they went most overlooked by hardcore players, and today we're going to give those guns some love. We're going to give those underrated assault rifles some shine. Welcome to the page, everybody. Chaos here. We're going to go over those assault rifles that you look back on and say, you know what? Why didn't I use that more? Why did I ignore it? Why did I never pick it up? Drop a like, make sure you're subscribed, and we start things off with the SC 2010 or 2010 in COD Ghosts. There's a decent chance you forgot the gun was even there. I'm pretty sure I put this gun on the forgotten gun list too, but aside from having one of the coolest reload animations in the entire game, it was actually pretty solid, even if it wasn't as beastly as some other guns in the game. The SC fired at 750 rounds per minute, could kill in 3 to 5 shots, so in terms of time to kill, it was average, but it shined in the accuracy department. The recoil is incredibly low, and if you threw a foregrip on it, it had no recoil. If you were someone who liked laser beams, the SC was a really good choice for you despite its slower time to kill, and to its credit, the 3-shot kill range was actually pretty impressive. So it's not like this thing was a pure marshmallow shooter. I think it's a good way to kick off today's list. It was no honey badger, no, but it was solid, especially if you were just starting out and learning the fundamentals of COD, which if you were doing that in Ghost, well, I don't know. Before we move on, guys, if you guys are into Let's Plays, I have brought back the Chaos Plays On channel. If you know that channel, then you are an OG from way back. We're doing Dead Space Remake. We're doing Gotham Knights. We're just now starting a Far Cry 3 Let's Play. I've never actually played through the game. Pretty excited. The link is at the top of the description if you guys want to get over there and sub and join me in those Let's Plays. At number 9, the AK-47 in Modern Warfare 3. Was I the only one that thought this version was actually slept on? Compared to other versions of the iconic rifle, this one, it was weaker, it was clunkier, yes. It was less consistent, but it wasn't bad. The recoil was high, yes, and I know I've literally said every negative about it, but the damage was good at close range and mid-range. Old school COD AKs were beasts from any distance, but the Modern Warfare 3 version had some range limitations, and I think that's what made people think it was bad. But if you stuck to the optimal ranges, it was really good. It could drop people with a couple shots as long as you were aiming high, and with the Specialist Strike package, it got crazy. It wasn't nearly as good as the COD 4. It wasn't nearly as good as the classic Modern Warfare 2 version, but it was good. It was worth using if you were willing to get the hang of the shortcomings. At number 8, the FN FAL in Black Ops 1. I love Black Ops, but I'll be the first to admit the weapon balance was not the best. There was a lot of guns that were available in the game, but you only saw a handful of them getting used. This sadly meant you almost never saw the FN FAL getting any love, and it was a shame because it wasn't horrible. Semi-auto rifle, very high damage, pretty low recoil, and some pretty nice handling speeds allowed you to take full advantage of the time to kill. On previous videos, I've actually said this gun was made obsolete by the M14, and while that is partially true, it doesn't make it bad. Honestly, I think the FN FAL was a good weapon, but the fact that it wasn't as versatile or easy to use as the Famas or the 7.4U, it killed it for people. They just didn't give it a chance. If you're still playing Black Ops 1 through Plutonium mod on the PC, go try it. Maybe you'll figure out the secret strat that makes it top tier. And the firing noise and everything, it's super satisfying. At number 7, the Famas. Modern Warfare 2 2022. Now, before you comment anything, let me clarify. I know a lot of people love the gun. In fact, some people say it's one of the best burst rifles in COD history. So why would I put it on a list of underrated rifles? Well, simply because I think it gets overshadowed by other rifles in the game. Modern Warfare 2 had guns like the ACR, the SCAR, the AK-47, and so many more ridiculous choices that it was sometimes hard to see the greatness of this 3-round burst monster. And I think at the beginning of this, I said 2022. I meant 2009. OG Modern Warfare 2. My bad. When you get down to it, I think it was a top 3 gun in the game. I do. With stopping power equipped, it could one burst from any distance, and since there was no recoil, you could take advantage of it. It was basically just the COD 4 M16 with more attachments, perks, and kill streaks to reward you. Yes, a lot of people still remember this gun, but it's getting on the list because I think it doesn't get enough love. It does. I know it doesn't get enough love. At number 6, I gave this gun love, the MTAR in Black Ops 2. Now, usually the starting rifle in a COD game is nothing special, but I think way too many people passed over on this back in the day. It was unlocked by default, and it was overshadowed by the heavy hitters. You had the AN-94, you had the M8A1, you had your SMGs, but how many of you actually used it? Because if you did, You knew. It featured no vertical recoil. The iron sights were clean. High damage per shot. The only downside, it had a relatively low fire rate, which meant you couldn't take full advantage of the high damage, but sticking close to mid-range, you could get some fast kills. And the handling, this thing felt really, really good. It did. A lot of people just use the MTAR until they unlock the more fan-favorite weapons, but the classy Black Ops 2 players out there, I'm talking to you, they kept it and used it for a while. At number 5 today, the FN SCAR 17 in Modern Warfare 2019. I've gone back and forth, flip-flopped on this gun throughout the last couple of years. A lot of people look at the 2019 SCAR as underwhelming, and I get it. Certainly not as good as the other SCARs in COD history, but there was potential. This version of the SCAR maintained the excellent iron sights that you would expect from it, as well as the high damage per shot, but where it struggled was the ammo capacity and the recoil. By default, it kicked quite a bit, and it only had a 20-round mag. The gunsmith did allow you to mitigate the recoil pretty easily, but the biggest magazine you could put on it, I think, was 30 rounds, and that came with some hefty movement penalties. I mean, it wasn't that sleight of... that's what sleight of hand was for, right? There was a handful of SCAR builds that the Modern Warfare community came up with, and there was actually a pretty insane build, and as long as you weren't trying to play super aggressive, the gun was good. The damage per shot was always going to keep your time to kill competitive, so it was really just a matter of finding a build that could keep that recoil low and that reload speed high. And speaking of 2019 assault rifles, let's stick with it. At number 4, the Oden in 2019. Everybody remembers the Oden, pretty decent following in Warzone, but in standard multiplayer, people thought it sucked. They did. It was the bottom tier in the assault rifle category because of the handling speeds and the firing rate. It had one of the slowest firing rates in the entire game, but it had some of the highest damage. Now, that also came with super slow default movement speed, so you had to do quite a bit of experimentation in the gunsmith in order to use it, but at the end of the day, it wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but if you were willing to grind out the attachments and fix the recoil pattern, it was nasty. It wasn't great for smaller maps like Shipment or Shoot House, but on other 6v6 maps and in larger modes like 10v10 and Ground War, it was actually really good. The time to kill was insane if you could stay on your target, and as long as you weren't getting up in people's faces, you didn't have a lot to worry about with those movement penalties. Honestly, I liked the Oden. I mean, if you preferred a slower playstyle, you probably liked the Oden as well. At number 3. The FAD in Modern Warfare 3. I can't believe I'm saying this. This is going to sound insane to some of you out there because I've spent years absolutely crapping on this gun. But after seeing what some people have managed to do with it in plutonium, I'm going to eat a little bit of crow. The FAD actually has some insane killing potential, and I may be willing to join the FAD fan club one day if somebody will give me a free membership. It featured a blazing fast fire rate, relatively low damage per shot, but I don't know. It made a lot of people, myself included, think it wasn't worth it back in the day. You had the ACR, you had the MP7, but when you figured out the playstyle, it was good. In the hands of a good player with Specialist Strike Package, the FAD was actually insane because of the ridiculous close-range TTK and the very competitive long-range TTK, assuming you could keep your bullets on target. It wasn't for everybody, but I guess if you put in the time, you figured out its strengths and weaknesses, it wasn't bad. At number 2. The SWAT 556 in Black Ops 2. This is the part of the video where half of you are going to click off and the other half are going to leave a nasty comment about how wrong I am. But you know what? I'm going to give the SWAT fan club some love here because they may have been onto something all these years. It was a 3-round burst in Black Ops 2. No recoil, extremely high damage at the cost of very low fire rates that would often get you killed between trigger pulls. Compared to the other burst rifles in the game, like the M8A1, it was much less effective for aggressive playstyles and a lot more punishing of mistakes. But if you were a passive player, if you were playing at mid to long range, it's actually pretty consistent and easier to use than the M8. I'm not saying the gun was amazing, but it may have been better than I gave it credit for. And maybe all those people who swore up and down in its defense for the last decade on my videos, maybe you knew what you were talking about. At number 1 today, the XR2 in Black Ops 3. I've made a habit of defending this gun over the years, and this is another example of why. Compared to other guns on this list, it had a decent-sized fan club, but I still don't think it gets enough love. 3-round burst, very similar to the SWAT in the sense that it had a pretty low fire rate, could get you killed rather easily if you didn't hit your shots, but it also had extremely high damage. It could easily one-burst people from across the map if you aim high and use the right attachments. With high caliber equipped, it was almost always a one-burst kill because of its recoil pattern that consistently popped the second and third bullet up to the target's head, assuming you aimed at center mass like most COD players try to do. And since the time between bursts wasn't too long, it also wasn't very punishing if you missed a shot or two. Looking at the gun compared to everything else in Black Ops 3, I really don't know why it wasn't more popular. I guess it wasn't as cool as the M8A7 or as aggressive as like the VMP, but it was a good gun. If we're talking about guns that were criminally underrated, I think it deserves to be here. It wasn't forgotten. It wasn't unpopular, but I think it was way better than people realize. Possibly a top 5 gun in that game. Dare I say it? Let me know what you guys think. Check out the Chaos Plays On channel, and I'll see you soon.